Welcome everybody to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we're looking at something truly special. We're going to unpack this delightfully heartwarming modern fable, the story of a little caterpillar and his shoes. I know, it kind of sounds like a simple children's rhyme right off the bat, but as we're going to see, it holds this deeply profound lesson about generosity, transformation, and just the sheer beauty of letting go. It's a wonderful, wonderful illustration of how something as simple as outgrown shoes can spark this incredible journey of kindness. So get comfortable and let's explore the kindness behind caterpillar shoes. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to start by just asking yourself this question. What actually happens when the things we rely on suddenly hold us back? Think about it for a second. We all have things we've outgrown, right? Maybe it's a piece of clothing, an old habit, or, even a mindset that used to serve a really specific purpose in our lives, but it just doesn't fit anymore. Usually, when things get tight or uncomfortable, our very first instinct is just to toss them out and move on. But what if there's a better way to handle the things we've outgrown? What if the end of our usefulness for an item is really just the beginning of its true purpose? Section 1. A surprising urge to give and recognizing a surplus. So, to kick things off, let's introduce our protagonist. We've got this very busy caterpillar. He had a whole lot of feet, and he wore a tiny pair of shoes on every single one of them so they wouldn't get sore. But one day, everything changed. He suddenly just stopped wanting to eat or even walk. His shoes felt, rather tight and rather small. It was a super uncomfortable transition for him. But here is the critical turning point in our story. Instead of just kicking them all off in frustration and throwing them away, he experienced something kind of wonderful. He felt this quite surprising urge to find all of these tiny shoes new feet. He recognized his own surplus. He didn't need them anymore, for sure, but he knew they absolutely still had value. What he decided to do here is what we call intentional giving. Basically, that's the conscious act of distributing your personal surplus directly to others who can actually benefit from it. Our caterpillar didn't just casually discard his past in a messy pile. Nope, he took responsibility for it and set off through the woods at once to see exactly who he'd meet, actively practicing this intentional giving. Let's move to section 2 and see how this builds, finding the perfect fit and matching the gift to the receiver. Our caterpillar had a brilliant strategy here. Now, what's really interesting here is how the caterpillar didn't just blindly toss his shoes at the very first bugs he saw. He actually observed his community to make sure he found the perfect match for each pair. First up, he meets a friendly woodlouse and offers him wooden clogs. The woodlouse is so thrilled he literally wants to do a jig. Then he gives a grasshopper these bouncy new sports pumps to help him get air for his jumps. And finally, he hands over his hard, shiny party shoes to a beetle because they perfectly match the beetle's shell. He made sure his gifts were perfectly tailored to each bug's lifestyle and physical traits. Along his journey, he walked beneath a spider dangling from above and offered up his cozy slippers. The spider enthusiastically accepted, saying, "I do, they'll keep my feet as warm as toast." But, there's a really quiet, emotional moment here. The caterpillar actually thought those slippers were the ones he'd missed the most. And that shows us that true generosity sometimes means making an emotional sacrifice, handing over the things we still really care about simply because we know they'll serve someone else way better. Section 3. No shoe left behind, and finding creative solutions for edge cases. Because let's be real, clearing out your inventory and practicing altruism isn't always perfectly straightforward. There are always edge cases. The reality of altruism definitely comes with its fair share of challenges, and our caterpillar ran into some frankly hilarious outliers in the woods. First, he startled an earthworm who just woke from a snooze, but obviously worms don't need shoes. Then there was a stick insect who was so perfectly camouflaged like a tree, the caterpillar missed him entirely. And my absolute favorite, the snail. The snail has this bare, sliming foot and was super excited to run. But, a snail only has one foot, so the snail only took one shoe. Which brings us to a very poignant mathematical problem. The number 1. Because the snail only took a single shoe, there was exactly one last shoe remaining, just sitting there all on its own. The caterpillar felt quite sad about this. I mean, after all his careful matching and intentional giving, he absolutely didn't want to waste the very last one. But that determination leads to the ultimate act of creative repurposing. There, sitting upon a leaf, he spied a tiny, lonely flea. Since the flea didn't need to actually wear the shoe, the caterpillar offered it as a place to live. The flea jumped right in, looked around the cavernous space of the shoe, and cheered that there was tons of room for him and all his friends to come and stay.
The shoe literally became a home. It's a real game changer and perfectly solves the surplus problem. When something can't be used for its original purpose anymore, a little imagination can give it an entirely new life.
Section 4. The joy of letting go and the internal reward of generosity. Let's look at the culmination of the caterpillar's journey. His mission was finally accomplished. He realized his shoes had all found new feet or homes. So here are the exact chronological steps he took right after. Step 1. He decided to stop roaming. Step 2. He climbed straight up a stalk and dangled from a leaf. Step 3. He wove himself a warm silk cocoon. And step 4. He sighed with great relief. I want you to really picture that sigh for a second. It wasn't just physical exhaustion from walking all day. It was the deep, internal relief of someone who has successfully unburdened themselves. And this brilliantly illustrates the core theme of the fable. A few weeks later, he pops out of that cocoon as a great big butterfly. As a caterpillar, his life was heavy, he was burdened by tight shoes, walking everywhere on the ground, and entirely focused on eating. But as a butterfly, he's totally unburdened, he's free, flying up high in the blue sky, doing completely different things. Giving away the shoes was absolutely essential preparation for his metamorphosis. There's just no way he could fly with 100 tiny shoes weighing him down. As the butterfly fluttered up into the sky, he looked down at the woods and saw his old friends passing through below. And he was full of joy, not because of his own wings, but purely because he knew his old shoes were making more feet happy and it didn't matter whose. He had zero regrets. It was just pure joy, knowing his past burdens were actively bringing happiness to others in his community. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative final thought. I want you to ask yourself, who could use your old shoes? And hey, I don't just mean literal shoes here. Think about your own caterpillar shoes. Think about your surplus. Think about the skills, the items, or the habits you've outgrown that might be holding you back right now. If you practice intentional giving, kind of like our little caterpillar did, how much joy could you spread by just letting them go? What could you become if you finally set those burdens down? It's a powerful concept to carry with you. Thank you so much for joining me today to explore the kindness behind caterpillar shoes. I really hope it inspires you to explore this idea in your own life and find the perfect fit for your own surplus.